Hey y'all, it's Kira,
John,
Rachel,
Caitlin,
Dave,
Hunter,
Jake,
Clara, and you're listening to the
Peercast,
featuring the BA reps.
your one-stop shop for everything UMTAD.
Hey y'all, Kira here. Just here to tell you that in this episode of the Peercast, our very first episode of the Peercast, John and I will be filling you in on all of the UMTAD updates you need to know, followed by a conversation with this week's guest, University of Minnesota Theater Arts and Dance Chair, Matt LeFebvre. This is a great conversation we had about being adaptable in a time of mourning, in a time of transition, in a time of finicking with technology, and overall just trying to be better and making the world and our space as theater artists a better place for everyone. And we are so excited to share these words that Matt had for all of you. Every week, we will also be highlighting a working artist who is doing amazing work and is just a good name to know, as well as a shout-out feature that introduces you to one of our very own UMTAD students. And finally, for our first segment of Wise Words of the Week, BA rep Dave Micheali has the, quote, literal best joke in the entire world to close us out today. So all I can tell you is it's gonna be good.
Hi,
Hey y'all, it's Kira.
it's John.
And this is real. This is happening.
We're doing it.
We can't believe it. We're so excited. So welcome to the very first episode of the Peercast, featuring the reps. So right now, the peers are represented by me, and John is representing the reps today. And we will be your consistent hosts. So we'll be here every time, with dropping guests every time. So we just want to give you a quick rundown of what we do. So I am a peer, and we do interdepartmental things. So we communicate with faculty. We sit in on faculty meetings, season selection committee meetings. Oh, well, I guess that's just for the BA. But so we're kind of like the communication between the student body and the faculty, kind of what's going on. We also do events for Frameworks and New Student Orientation, which I totally hope you attended because they were super awesome. And then, okay, so John is a BA rep.
Yes, indeed. Yes, I am. So we BA reps, we have fun with Kira as well as Rachel a little bit too. And we make sure that y'all get all the information that you need. So we go ahead and we throw out those Naga High notes with y'all. Should have received / will be receiving very soon. And yeah, so we're kind of that in between y'all and not necessarily Kira, because Kira's gonna be there too. But we're all just here making sure that everyone feels supported and having a great time. So
yeah, and part of that is so a project for that mission is the podcast. Which is super exciting, and it's just an attempt to join forces, an attempt to join all the forces within UMTAD and be a force to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. Boom.
Okay, so before we continue, it is important for us to go ahead and acknowledge the land in which the University of Minnesota was built upon. So by doing so, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and read a passage that was created under the guidance of Professor Ananya Chatterjee, and it was inspired by her spring 2020 choreographing social justice students. The Theater Arts and Dance Department recognizes the positioning of the University of Minnesota on stolen native land originally belonging to the Dakota and Ojibwe peoples of Minnesota-Makosi. We align ourselves with the Native communities and commit to ourselves to building relationships with Indigenous relatives and to honor their land on which we dance and train every day. We invite you to join us acknowledging the injustices Native peoples have historically and continuously experienced in our society, and honor the land in which we work, learn, and dance, and the Indigenous peoples who are the original inhabitants.
All right, so we're going to start you off with some UMTAD updates, and holy smokes, there's a lot going on, you guys. There's a lot. So we hope you did tune into Frameworks and New Student Orientation, because some of this was mentioned, but we'll go over just kind of some of the highlights. So here's what you need to know. There are no ticketed performance events for any UMTAD department for the fall, which means that everything will be continued either virtually or will be postponed. So to get into some of those specifics.
So yeah, let's kick it off by starting with our BFA acting cohort. So our BFA will be going into their virtual rehearsals for the Jubilee season. So a little bit more about the Jubilee season and what that means. So in this upcoming year, so 2020 and 2021, theaters across the United States will be committed to producing plays generated by individuals that have been historically excluded from our country stages. And so there's going to be a one-year festival, or Jubilee, if you will, which is a celebration for all theaters, professional, community, university, and high school. Yeah.
But it's so cool. So like the entire UMTAD department is kind of participating in this, which is really neat. And so the idea was for the University of Minnesota to be kind of like a center for everything. I mean, there were going to be commissioned shows coming from the outside. And that it's still happening. It's still happening. Just we're kind of like transitioning still to like a virtual format, if that makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so here is our virtual fall repertoire for our BFA acting cohorts. So our second years will be doing Everybody Inappropriate by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, and our third years will be doing Kin by Bathsheba Doran. Our fourth years will be doing Trouble in Mind by Alice Childress and The Heresy of Love by Helen Edmondson.
I think Clara, the BFA peer, is doing Hearsay of Love. I think that's what she said. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so dancers are still moving and grooving. So they're not doing fall UDT, University Dance Theater, in person, but they've commissioned 10 local artists. This is actually so cool. They've commissioned artists, and they're going to set work on super small casts. So this is like solos, duets, trios, and from my understanding, these might be in person, but then they're going to create like dance films out of them, which is super cool. Also, John, you want to know a neat tidbit about the dance program?
Do I want to know one?
Yeah.
I want to know one.
Okay. Sure. I'll tell you. So you know how the university is fully online for 2 weeks, like mandate, right, for everyone? Mm-hmm. Well, so Carl Fink, the dance department, had applied for an exemption for some of the upper level courses because the dance program doesn't have like a grad program where they can still be in person. Yeah, so they got one. So some of their classes are in person right now, and it's really cool. So you have to go in, you have to sanitize your hands, you have to sanitize your feet, and then they have these squares that are like 6 feet by 6 feet. Yeah. Like taped on the ground that you stay in for class, and it's super neat. It's super neat. It's like
that's very interesting. I like it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of some Kilongi, little box.
Little Rasa box action.
Rasa boxes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Boxes, but make it dance.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, so our BA main stage minimum votes will be postponed to spring and done as a creative collaboration. And so because of the fact that we can't be in the building between Thanksgiving and the start of spring semester, which is an incredibly huge building session for us all, we don't really have the means to fully technically support a full production. And so we'll be turning that into a creative collaboration, which will be incredibly fun. And I think people should be very excited about that too. And then Hecuba, our second main stage play, was actually going to be on hold for now until we get a little bit more information about the spring and, check everything out, which I'm pretty excited for myself. So I think it'd be a fun time.
Yeah, me too. And it would be a Telvin Lisa collab, which would be
gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's some more tea. So the UMTAD applied for a hub residency, it's called. So this was in the spring. They applied for one, COVID hit, budgets kind of took a hit, so they didn't get the residency. But so due to kind of the anti-racism movement and the murder of George Floyd, UMTAD made the decision to use the production budget that they would have used for in-person performances to put the Hub residency on its feet, which is really incredible. And so, okay, so here is kind of like a little blip from grad student David Melendez. He is serving as the logistics coordinator for the Hub and kind of came up with the statement. So the Hub is an UMTAD-funded initiative to gather members of the UMTAD community to brainstorm ideas, discuss challenges, and engage in creative research that responds to the ongoing discussions about racism, policing, community care, and among others, intensified by the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And we are excited to talk more about that and to say more about that next week, along with Jubilee.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, up next, we're going to have some words with our guest, Matt LeFebvre. Be super excited, super excited. Most of y'all should know who he is. He's wonderful. But to give you a little bit of background, Matt LeFebvre has been designing costumes for theatrical productions since 1987. He was born and raised in Minnesota, attended the University of Minnesota Morris, where he fell in love with costume design and received his MFA from our very own Twin Cities school here in Minnesota. And so where he now resides as a faculty as well as the chair of the Department of Theater Arts and Dance. And he has now designed for theaters across the country and has received an Ivy Award, TDF Irene Giraffe Award, as well as an Ignite Theater Artist Fellowship. Notable theaters that he's been working with have been the Guthrie Theater, Signature Theater, Arizona Theater Company, American Players Theater, Milwaukee Repertory Theater, the Children's Company, and of course, many, many more. So without further ado, here we go.
Hi, Matt.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so great. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Hello.
I'm using one of my son's gaming headsets. Look, it lights up. So
I love that.
I feel like an android.
That is gold. That is so gold. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
We're so excited. So this is the first episode of the Peercast, and so we are just hoping to like build a community that can communicate with each other and just have good conversation. And
great.
Yeah. So you just came on of teaching were you teaching your costume class?
Yeah, intro to costume design.
Lovely.
That's so great. How's that going?
It's going well, I think. Yeah, I mean it's certainly interesting transitioning everything to Zoom. But I was teaching a similar class in the spring, and I think in many ways it translated pretty well. I think that the presentations worked really well through Zoom. One thing I think that, and I talked to a lot of other faculty that experienced a similar thing in the spring. We already established a rapport with the students in person in the spring, so making that adjustment was in some cases not that difficult. Mm-hmm. It is interesting because this class, there are some students in it that I just don't know. I've never met them before, and so through Zoom, I don't really feel like I'm quite understanding where they're coming from. But I'm assuming over the next few weeks, as class projects and presentations start to happen, that's going to change.
I suppose I feel like as a student, it's so weird getting to know people over Zoom. Like it's almost like a different personality comes out. You know what I mean? It's
right. Yeah.
It's so interesting. And I mean, this whole like breakout group culture is so interesting to me too. Like just how that dynamic is different than the in-person group work. I don't know. It's
right. Yeah. No,
really
absolutely.
Interesting to witness.
And I definitely feel like too, like you get so much from that in-person experience, especially within theater, where like you get to really learn like what people are interested in and like how that like shapes their view of like performance and design and things like that. So I feel like it's a little bit, it's just ends up being a little interesting. I guess you have to do it through a virtual setting now, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like you're just trying to overcompensate a lot.
Mhm.
But
Matt,
I don't know. I think in some ways it's good. I mean, I resisted Canvas for the longest time just because I I just found it so counterintuitive when I would try to get my stuff on there before, and but with the mandate that we had to get all of our classes on Canvas, I got some of the training, and once I really started to understand it, I really started to see how valuable a tool it is, and I don't know if I would say I enjoyed, maybe, and sometimes I enjoyed putting together the Canvas site, but it is kind of cool. It just makes you think about it in a lot of different ways, and hopefully, it makes the experience close to equal as in person, if not in some ways better.
I suppose how much of like the transition to online was dictated by like university orders per se, or like how flexible was it, / like how much did you as the TED chair get to kind of decide how things were run?
Well, the university made it clear from the get-go that it was really the faculty's choice. They had the choice to make whether they wanted to go in person or remote or somewhere in between. And really, the only mandate that the college has made thus far this fall is with the going remote for undergraduate classes for the first 2 weeks. And that had to do with, I mean, it was really focused on freshmen and housing and all of that, so any upper division class automatically had an exception, but you could request an exception for undergraduate courses, but you had to go through a process. And I know that the dance program, they did make a number of requests for, even though, because they don't have any grad students, and so all of, majority of their classes are undergraduate level, but they submitted a number of requests, and they were all granted. And it just really had to do with faculty's feeling of whether or not they were safe. Or, I mean, I actually emailed all of my students several times over the summer just to gauge where they were, what their comfort level was. And I know that a lot of other faculty did the same, because I think most faculty feel like, there are, if they have to move online, there's a way that they can do it. But it's not always the best. And in some cases it's really disadvantaging students to move things online. But, I had a few students in my class that just were really concerned about being on campus in a room, and and I wanted to honor that.
That's so kind. I'm taking a dance class that was one of the ones that was included in that kind of exemption where we get to be in the studio. But there are people in there who are not comfortable and who, don't feel safe being there. And it's so, it really puts the emphasis on hybrid even still, because we have a Zoom meeting going on during class, and our instructor she's very high risk, and so she is like in her home, and we're Zooming her from the studio, which is really
right.
It's so neat. And I think it's just such a crazy time of like finding ways to make it work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't know. And another thing I really appreciate too is like, I feel like sometimes in COVID land, there's this camp of like, this is such a tragedy, what are we going to do? Like, it's not going to be the same. But I feel like so much of the attitude in UMTAD that I've witnessed so far is more about adaptability, right? And we love this, so we're going to continue to do it. And we're just going to refocus kind of our lens
on how we do it, but we're still gonna go forward because we're here and this is our day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is such a overused term, and it's kind of a corporate term, I think. But you really have to play the long game, and think about how can we keep working on our skills? How can we keep growing our talents and our skills so that as things evolve, as we come out on the other side, we're prepared and we don't feel like we're having to make up for lost ground. And I think it's really, if you approach it with that attitude, I think it's good, but it's hard, and there was a really interesting article that a student actually shared with me early on. It probably came out in April. And it really talked about the value of mourning and grieving for something that's gone, or at least temporarily gone. And the argument that the author was really trying to make was that it was almost more frustrating to see people trying to recreate a live theater experience, not live, than to just accept that it's not going to be that way for a while, and not try to recapture it in some other foreign format. And it was a really powerful article. I'm not sure that I agreed entirely with what the person was saying, because I do feel like we, artists, we have to have some kind of creative outlet, or what is the point? It's like sharks. If you stop swimming, you drown. But maybe it's thinking about it in a different way, or maybe it takes on a different format, or maybe you channel it into forms of activism as opposed to, a live theater experience. But it is a challenge.
And it feels so transitionary. Like there's something on the other side that's different, and we're in the middle of getting there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you see, after we come out of this, come out of it, do you foresee anything that might be different? Like, is there something, really, I don't know, maybe it's like just protocol, like even backstage, or like, I don't know, just measures of safety, or like even, and not only do we have COVID going on, but we also have this, our anti-racism movement, kind of going on at a parallel. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts of like what maybe the vision, maybe not for theater as a whole, but even for UMTAD, could be, is maybe.
Well, and that's, I think that's a really interesting question, because, and there's been a lot of discussion over the summer about, what does normal look like? What is, so many people talk about getting back to normal. Well, normal for whom? And I think that, one of the things that the murder of George Floyd and countless other murders and shootings and racial injustice seems to be finally coming home to some people, is that this is a reality for a large group of people, that people that look like me don't experience, and we never have. And so the one thing I think we have to be careful about, and all of us have to be careful about, is that we realize that we can't go back to being normal. We have to go back to being better. Things have to be better than they were. And we can't let up. We can't just, it's easy for somebody like me to just say, you know what, I don't want to think about that right now. And I don't have to. but that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. I mentioned this in a meeting last week. That it's been a rough summer for everybody, and there are times where I was feeling particularly hopeless, and one of the things that I was able to do is I would just try to carve out a little bit of time when I could during the week where I would just go on these long bike rides, like maybe 20, 30, 40 miles, and just kind of try to get the endorphins going and maybe balance things out a little bit. And I was riding, and I was looking down, and there was a statement that was written on the sidewalk in Sharpie, I think, and it was probably only about this big, like what's like maybe 6 inches in diameter. And as I'm writing, I'm thinking about all these horrible things that are going on and continue to go on, and thinking about the COVID and that fallout. And I read this quote, and the quote said, "This is every day for us." And that resonated with me in a way that same sentiment never did before. And I think about that statement almost every day, if not several times a day. And I've gone over that same route a number of times, and I've always noticed that. So, so it's this idea of we have to be better. We can't go back, and even though there's something desirable about going back to your comfort level, you just realize that that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. And so, that was kind of a rambling answer to a question, but
no, it was a big question. It was a really big question.
And I think a lot, but I also think that, sure, there are going to be some things that we are learning from the pandemic that I think are going to help in certain ways, that I think are going to help us do things better. I think that, but I also think there's a lot of things that we just can't replicate outside of a live interaction. But there's, I think working as a regional theater costume designer, one of the things that I think Zoom has shown a lot of us is that it may not be necessary to make as many trips out of town to other theaters for meetings that could easily be accomplished just over Zoom. Likewise, when Skype seemed to be about the only platform going for stuff like this, there were a few times, and this was a few years ago, where I worked at American Players Theater in Spring Green, and they do typically they do a season of productions. They have an indoor theater and outdoor theater. So overall, I think they do something like 7 to 9 productions in rotating rep, and each production has its own design team, and so there's just a lot of people working for that organization. But they start pretty early. I mean, they start rehearsals in, I think, late April, early May. So a lot of times we'd still be in class session when they would need me out there for fittings. And so I tried to Skype in with my class and do presentations, and it was adequate at best. Let's put it that way. It was adequate at best, but it was a far cry from what it could have been. But now it's like, now with Zoom, it would, like, if I had that all over to do all over again, I would have said, let's not have the class meet in a room and I Skype in. Let's just all let's all Zoom from wherever we want to be, and we can do presentations that way, and we can actually have a conversation, and I can actually see what you're presenting, and it actually feels more like we're all in the same place as opposed to one of us being far, far away. And, that's a challenge that your instructor for your dance class is going to be struggling with probably a little bit, but
right. It almost feels, and I know, as like we're getting used to like Zoom culture, we're all getting better at this, but exclusive in a way, where like, we're all in the same space except for one, and it's,
right.
It's so hard to, remember to include a computer, and to look over. And I know on our first day, she was in person, and we had one dancer who was in the Zoom meeting, and the whole time she was just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting to look, because we're so when there's a group of us, we're so just trying to be there, and so
yeah. And I have a situation right now in my class. There seems to be one student that consistently has, and I need to follow up with all of them just to see how everything's coming across. But their audio and video is really choppy when they participate. And so my fear is that that's what they're getting too, and so that means they're missing a lot if it's that choppy for them. But
that's so hard. What do you do in that situation? At that point it becomes a matter of just what can we do? Sometimes it's just your Wi-Fi is just bad, and
yeah, and it's a class of 13, so 1 out of 13 is not a bad percentage, but I hope we can figure out a way to make it better so that the student doesn't have to go park in the parking garage. The parking ramp, the 21st Avenue parking ramp has better Wi-Fi than any of our buildings have.
No. Gosh. So I have a question about your costume class again. Are you doing as far as like hands-on stuff? Like I know I'm taking stage tech, and they're sending us with kits where we have we buy our own screwdrivers, and then we do our projects at home. Are you doing something similar, or is it like totally? Are you focusing on design?
Well, it really focuses on design. So it's a lot of it's research, and it's text analysis, and developing costume ideas through sketches, and they'll do paperwork. So much of it is fairly easily adaptable to this Zoom culture. The one thing that's tricky is trying to figure out a way of reinforcing or giving the students a better understanding of the fitting experience, and what to look for in a fitting, how to act in a fitting, how to get the most out of a fitting, not only for your team that's working on building the costumes, but your rapport with your actor, and so the actor feels ownership of the costume as well, and all of that. And I don't, fortunately, there are more and more videos available on YouTube that are better at kind of showing insight into that than there used to be. I swear there are more videos out there now than there were just this past spring, because I certainly don't recall seeing all these videos before. But there's that. And then the tactile quality of the fabric, I don't know. I'm not sure how to get that across either in this sort of Zoom culture. And I'm debating whether or not I could put together like swatch packets of fabrics that are sort of all the same and numbered, so I can send them out to everybody, so that when we're talking about fabrics, everybody can, go to ring number 3 and look at fabric swatch numbers 3 or whatever. But But yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that's I still don't have an answer for yet.
How do you, I guess, like, kind of going off this, like, how do you typically, I know, like, with this virtual setting, it could be really interesting if you could maybe, like, start exploring, like, doing a digital renderings and things like that. Have you ever, like, done that? Have you done mostly like paper, pencil? Like, what's your vibe with that?
Well, everything I traditionally do is by hand with pencil. I did invest in a couple things to kind of help me this semester that I didn't have last semester. I did buy an iPad Pro with a pencil, and with Procreate, you can do some pretty cool things. It's pretty foreign for me, so I've just been dabbling a little bit with it now. But I also bought a sort of monolithic document camera so that I can, it's basically like an overhead projector camera that I can live stream drawing, a traditional drawing on paper, and I don't have to like lift my laptop over or anything like that. The weird thing is that, and the documentation for this camera is really hard to understand. And I've just played around with it a little bit. I'm having a hard time getting the aperture big enough to, fill the size of paper that I'm trying to draw on. That's one problem. The other problem is that it reverses everything. So it's like a mirror version of what I'm drawing. So everything's backwards. And then the problem I'm having with the iPad Pro is I can't figure out how to connect it to Zoom. I thought you could just hook it to your laptop, and it would read that as an external camera, but so far it's not worked out. And I have to do a demo on Tuesday, so the clock is ticking. But hopefully I can get it figured out.
I know there's like in Zoom you can when you share your screen you can annotate, but it's not the most accurate thing whatsoever. But I feel like that might be interesting just to maybe if you like shared your screen and gave yourself access, if you joined as a different like person on your iPad Pro, you can maybe use that and start annotating on the iPad Pro, but like be on the camera.
Yeah. I need to go to the Zoom site and just do a little bit more digging around. I'm assuming I can. I mean, I know I can get Zoom on my iPad, so it may be that I just have to somehow do some of the stuff on the iPad through Zoom if I can get Procreate to hook up to it. I don't know how that works yet, but one thing that is really cool though about Procreate is that you can set it up so that it'll do a time-lapse video of your drawing. So you can just draw, and you can draw for a long time, and then you can just click on the video and then it'll do this time-lapse, fast step-by-step of the drawing, which is really pretty cool.
That is neat. Wow. The things we would have never known if we weren't for COVID.
That's right.
Oh man. Also, Matt, we just have to mention that in your hello for our orientation video, the renderings that you brought up to the screen are so incredibly gorgeous.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Beautiful. The peers and reps, we were in a meeting and we were just going nuts. It was just so cool to see.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's weird. Last summer not this summer of discontent that we just went through, but the summer before, I just carved out a lot of time to just draw for fun, which is something that I don't usually do. In addition to a lot of the work that I was doing, but I would just do a lot, and it was a lot of like portrait drawing stuff, cheesy kind of stuff that you would see at like Valley Fair or the Mall of America, celebrity portraits, stuff like that. And I kept up with it for quite a while, and I even kept up with it during the beginning stages of the pandemic, and then I just sort of hit a wall. I got to a point where it just felt like what's the point? And I had so many other things that I had to deal with, and I haven't really drawn in a long time, and I need to get back to it. I just have to figure out. I just need to figure out how to balance out that time. And it's an interesting thing because I just don't, like I said, I was doing it for fun before. I was doing it all the time because I had to for my work. I had to do sketches for all these shows that I was working on, but all those shows are either on hold or never going to happen. It's kind of amazing. I was just thinking about this last week, because everything so drastically changed for everyone during spring break week last spring.
Yeah.
And and it was the week before spring break, on a Thursday the Thursday of spring break, I got a call from a theater in Delaware that it's been at least 5 years since I've had a show there. And they asked me if I was interested in doing costumes for the Critic and the Real Inspector Hound, or 2 one-acts. And of course I was thrilled to do that. And then the Friday before spring break, I got a call from the Guthrie, and other than my Christmas Carol, I haven't done anything for the Guthrie for at least 5 or 6 years. And they asked me if I would do the Shakespeare history cycle. So it would have been all 4 of those plays in rotating rep. It would have been phenomenal. And the Wednesday of spring break, right, the day that everything sort of fell apart, I had a meeting with Peter Rothstein from Latte Da to talk about 12 Angry Men that was going to go up in the spring, and so it's so many shows that just are probably never going to happen. Like the Shakespeares are probably never going to happen. Just too expensive now after all this.
Right.
So we're sort of back to that grieving conversation again. But
maybe this is the perfect time to ask. So we, in this moment of like stillness where everything is so like, right, we're still grieving the change and the kind of everything shutting down. We decided we want to ask all of our guests that we have on the podcast the same question. So we would like to ask you why you do the work you do, like what you love about it that makes you stick around.
Well, I think you're going to get a similar. I think you're going to get similar comments from other people. There's something so great about storytelling, and especially through theater, which is such a collaborative art, to be able to work with so many people with so many different viewpoints, to come together and to meld all those viewpoints together into an interpretation of a story. And there's something just really gratifying about that, and being able to, surely, in the work we do, there's similarities from one project to the next, but every project has something that is uniquely different from all the rest as well. And it is that ever-changing dynamic of those individuals and bringing what they have, and to be a part of it truly is a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And oh man, I don't know. I miss it. I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good. I mean, the thing about it is that I think if any good is going to come out of it, it's going to make a lot of us realize how much we took for granted for so long, and maybe we won't take it for granted anymore. And that goes back to my earlier comment of, let's not go back to the way it was. Let's go back to something better, and let's make sure that it is better.
That's beautiful. Matt, thank you so much. Again, for coming in. This was such a lovely conversation.
Well, thanks so much, Kira. John, good to hear you. All right. Well, good luck.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for coming.
All right. So another thing we'd like to do on the pod every week is do kind of like a little like artist highlight segment. And so for our first artist of the week, we've picked playwright and screenwriter Lynn Nottage, who is an absolute legend. Oh my gosh. So she's the first and only woman to win the Pulitzer Prize for drama twice. She was so she was named not the New York Times, just the Times, like their 100 most influential people of 2019, which is kind of a big deal. John, did you read Sweat in Intro to Theater class with Charles?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. So Lynn Nottage wrote Sweat and won a Pulitzer for that. She wrote Ruined, which I think that was her other Pulitzer. And then, so she also did Intimate Apparel, and that's Viola Davis is in, which is kind of sweet, like powerhouse team. Wow. And then, so here's the play. I recommend this with every ounce of my being. So Floyd's premiered at the Guthrie, I think last spring, before COVID hit. And so Floyd's is an incredibly beautiful show about previously incarcerated individuals who are working in a sandwich shop under the direction of a really kind of toxic leadership. And it's such an interesting story. And she actually, the Guthrie partnered with this restaurant in Minneapolis called All Square. And it's a really, ironically enough, like a very similar situation, hopefully without the toxicity. I've been there and it's a great vibe, where it's a sandwich shop and they have, let me tell you, gluten-free, dairy-free options, which is me because I'm very high maintenance, but but all of the staff is made up of previously incarcerated individuals who are supported and uplifted by this program. And they also have like an institute next door that kind of gets people back up on their feet. And it's so incredible. And so that would Floyd's by Lynn Nottage. Give it a look-see. I also, John, I have a really funny story. I met Lynn Nottage, kind of.
Like a little bit?
So here's the story. So I usher at the Guthrie Theater. And so Floyd's premiered at the Guthrie. And so I was working, I think it was the last preview or opening night. And so I'm like just standing by the door, with my programs, like greeting people, like, like, right, as you should, looking at tickets, showing them where to go. And literally Lynn Nottage walks through the door. And
Casual.
just casually. it's her show. Of course she's there. And so I didn't know what to do. I just stood there and I kind of smiled like dumbly because that's all I knew how to do. And then she waved at me. John. And so I waved back and I was like, "Hi, Lynn." And then she started talking, but then I realized she was looking over my shoulder, so I turned around and she was literally waving at someone else, and she probably did not see me. So that's That's how I met Lynn Nottage.
That kind of hurts.
I know. Honestly,
Like a
I'll
little
take it
bit.
though.
Yeah, hey, I can't say that. I can't say that, but not waved over me. I just can't. That's just not something I can say. So.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, felt like it was out of a movie. It's funny. Okay, so another segment that we are going to do is a student shout out, student feature. And I am so overjoyed to introduce our first student feature. Amber Frederick is an absolute light. John, do you know Amber?
Yes, I do. I had to tell Amber she had breast cancer in a show type.
Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. Deep. Oh my gosh. So, Amber's here and Amber has something to say. She's actually not here. This is a recorded message, but she's so excited to share these words with all of you. Hey, Amber.
Hello, Peercast featuring the reps. My name is Amber Frederick. I am a junior this year in the BA theater department, and I use she, her pronouns. I have a lot of interests in the theater department, actually, being a BA generalist, but one of my passions is really social justice theater. I really believe in art as a tool for social change, and I think that it can be extremely healing and extremely powerful as a means of education and also as a means of amplifying voices. One of my favorite memories of the department is probably working in the scene shop. My freshman year, I held a position there working alongside all the wonderful people, technicians in the shop. And I just learned so many things, how to use tools, how to build a flat, how to paint a backdrop. I mean, so many useful, applicable skills, but also so many great relationships fostered within that shop. And it was just one of the best learning experiences I've had. Yeah, like I said, I mean, my dreams for theater are really just creating social justice or socially informed pieces. So theater that fosters social change. Something that brings me joy in this moment is going to class. I think doing work again, especially work with my fellow artists in the department, brings me just an insane amount of joy. It's great to see everybody again. I'm glad to see that everybody's staying healthy and safe. I would like to say to my fellow UMTED students, stay strong. We're in this together. This year is by far one of the strangest years. And I think that, we have to lean on each other. We have to be each other's support system in whatever way possible, be there as a friend, as a resource, be there as an outlet for your fellow students, and take care of yourselves. Be an advocate for yourself as well. I think that it's really important that we maintain our health in order to be that resource for other people. Thank you, Peercast, for having me. It's going to be an exciting year, and I'm so excited to listen.
So, some closing thoughts for you all. This is just important things that you all need to know. Y'all, make sure that you're registering to vote. If you're able to do so, I don't know if some of y'all were like me. I came into college at like 16, so like realistically I couldn't vote. But if you can, make sure that you do. Make sure you get your absentee ballot if you have not already. And the government sets student loan rates and financial aid and use budget, which impacts your tuition. So just really making sure that like voting is so important, especially right now. And so there's so many different things that we need to be thinking about as we go ahead and start registering to vote. And so yeah.
And I saw maybe this was a tweet, but that it was a great point. So if you're doing an absentee ballot and if you're mailing it in, November 3rd is not like the due date. It's like your last chance. Like, get her in early. Get her in early, folks.
Yeah. Another reminder, just to make sure that you read the Rare COVID Guidelines put out by Katie Willard. And a reminder that Katie is going to be available via Zoom in the fall, and her appointment link is in the signature of all of her emails. So just make sure that you're, if you're ever confused, just search up Katie Willard and she'll pop up and you'll be like, Katie, and she'll like, what? I can help you.
And her thing this semester is rage appointments. So she's like, if you need to rage, call me.
I will be there multiple times.
And so kind of on the same wavelength. So normally the peers and reps have an office, but because COVID has closed all its doors, we are closed. But we are also here for you on Zoom, one-on-ones, like a group thing. We're planning on doing like some like fun like social events. So keep an eye out. Reach out to us at the peers email, peers@umn.edu. You can also reach the reps there if you're in the BA. We also have an Instagram. It's so good. Clara runs it. Clara's the VFA peer, and she's doing such a good job. Yep.
Clara's a little life. Love her.
Yeah. Love Clara. So you can find that at @tad_peers. Give us a DM if you'd like to do a student feature, just like Amber, and introduce yourself to all of us. Give us a DM, and we'd love to have you on. Also, if you have any news you'd like us to share, if you have any update tea, we'd love to share it and promote it.
If you got tea, I would love to share your tea.
Yeah, we would.
That'd be great.
All right. Gosh, John, we did it.
Yes, we did.
And holy smokes, we have another one coming. And another one.
And
another one after that. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We couldn't be more excited to put this on its feet and kind of open up some doors for connection and just updates. And, we've been talking a lot about like the rift between programs for a long time. I was just in my capstone meeting, and one of the dancers there said, I just feel so far away from the theater department. Like, I feel like we're two completely different things. And there was so much excitement at like any possibility to do like a collab with theater majors. And so I just think it's hopefully, this will be a space where we can all be and all exist and all support each other and learn from each other. So
it's all love.
It's all love. Awesome. Well, okay, to close us out, our good friend Dave, he has a joke.
Yes, he does.
All right, Dave, hit it.
Hello, everyone. It's Dave, the BA rep, coming at you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I hope everyone has had an amazing first week of the semester. It's going to be a really, really fun year. All right, so for this week's segment of Wise Words of the Week, I have the best joke that I have ever heard, probably the best joke that you're ever going to hear. I think definitively the best joke in existence. So get ready. This one's a doozy. All right. Why do seagulls fly over the sea? I'll give you a few seconds to mull that over. Why do seagulls fly over the sea? Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels. like bay gulls, bagels. So those are your wise words of the week, everyone. Woohoo!
This episode of the Peercast is edited by Rachel Breeze, programmed by Hunter Batterson and Caitlin McLean, and our music is composed by Raymond New.
Okay, y'all. So you may have noticed that you can barely hear me on some of the things here. So we did a little post editing, and by we I mean Rachel, because she popped off and knows how to do that, and added some more stuff in there. So hopefully next time will be a little better for you. Yeah, but if you're hearing me now, that's perfect and exactly what you came here for. So be excited to get more clear John voice in the future. With that, I guess I'll leave you with the words of our queen herself. It's going to be good.